Chapter 34. Father Spencer got back to Chicago. Ben was waiting for him at Midway. Their ride back to campus was made in silence. What was there really to say? In his office, Father Spencer put in a call to Detective Sergeant Jenkins. Jenkins had been grilling all the suspects, if you can call them that, all night. They had finally gotten one of the triggermen to tell him where Motown Matthews was probably hiding out. He was, and the police brought him down to the station at 9:45 a.m. They had been interrogating him for over 6 hours straight, without a single break. It would go on longer if need be. "You know, Motown, you will be here for as long as it takes," snapped Jenkins. "We're just going to keep bringing in fresh bodies and keep asking the same stupid questions to you, and you're going to be giving us the same stupid answers until you've decided to give us a straight scoop on what went down last night. We have you at the scene with at least 3 eyewitnesses and video. 2 of your triggermen are prepared to testify how you planned it all out. We would just like to know why. Why did you have to kill so many? What did you hope to accomplish?" "Man, I'm copping the 5th, dig," chirped in Motown. "You got something on me? We'll dance in court. You're wasting my valuable time with this jive." "You think it's jive, do you?" snapped Jenkins. He slammed a portable cassette player on the table. "Listen to this, choir boy." He played the tape from an interrogation of one of Motown's boys. "We was at Motown's pad last Friday night, planned the whole thing out on a napkin. Couple of his mule players wasn't quite keeping up. Thought he needed to teach him a lesson. None of us, though, thought it was going to go down like this. Was only supposed to be a couple of shooters. Didn't know Motown brought in reinforcements. We'd have skipped knowing that," said the voice on the tape. Jenkins shut the tape player off. "I think you might get life this time, Motown," said Jenkins sarcastically. 25 counts of murder? You might have to live to be 2,000 to make parole this time. That is, unless you decide you want to spill the beans on your whole operation. If not, we'll play it the DA's way. He wants a piece of your behind worse than I do." Motown sat silently in the chair. He had refused an attorney. He was much too smart to need counsel. Jenkins couldn't imagine what was going on through his mind. What could some guy who was responsible for killing 25 people be thinking? Maybe that was the problem. There was no cause and effect to him. The only rule was he was not to be inconvenienced. No life mattered but his. What a shallow existence, Jenkins thought. Jenkins motioned to 2 officers in the room. They moved toward Motown. "Silence is golden," said Jenkins. "You can take up space just as one in the lockup. Take him on down." The officers grabbed Motown by the biceps, lifted him out of the chair, and took him downtown. They had cleared out a number of cells to make sure that each of the shooters and Motown had their own cell. Motown knew who the talkers were, and there just wasn't anything he was going to be able to do about it now. He also realized that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't going to be doing anything about it from the outside, probably for a long time. Father Spencer had made his way downtown to the headquarters station. Jenkins assigned one of his junior officers to help Father get through the paperwork with the coroner's office. Bob's body would be transported back to Connecticut in 2 days. Father Spencer and Ben would both be accompanying the body. Miller Funeral Home made arrangements to pick them up at Bradley Airport. The following 2 weeks were a nightmare for Sergeant Jenkins and his precinct. Countless press conferences, luckily handed by Captain Moss. He assured the community that he had the perpetrators of this hideous massacre in custody and be working with the DA's office and would be seeking the death penalty for everyone involved. What grandstanding, thought Jenkins. What election fodder for Moss. He had enough to do making sure all the evidence was fitting, no loopholes, no conflicting testimony. He had also made sure his witnesses did not get cold feet or take a walk. That usually happened in all too many of these cases. No witnesses, no case. Wouldn't be the first time Motown got to the witnesses. Probably wouldn't be the last, but Jenkins was determined these days that this was over. The funeral for Bob Lawler was beautiful. It seemed like the whole hometown came out. The street was lined with people as far as the eye could see. It was even being carried live by the local cable company. Bob Lawler was certainly loved by the whole town. Father Spencer and Ben stayed for the funeral and flew back immediately afterwards. There was just too much going on for that to be of much use in Connecticut. Father Spencer told the Lawlers before he left he was going to establish a scholarship fund in Bob's name that would annually pay the full tuition to some inner-city student who wished to enter the ministry. The Lawlers were grateful and knew that Bob would be proud and honored. The Monarchs had a game that night that the president of the league offered to cancel and be made up later. The team decided to play the game and dedicate the rest of the season to Bob's memory. They all knew that Bob would not want the game called on the account of him. That was not his style. The team would wear black armbands on the uniform with a gold cross embroidered on the outside. The family was doing as well as could be expected. Billy and Gloria had grown even closer since her return from California over 2 months ago. She would be drawing her strength from Billy for a while. It was really good that Billy was living with the Lawlers. They had been treating him like their lost son ever since he got to town, a role he never really felt comfortable with up until now, but now was truly he was going to fill it. He knew what the Lawlers were going through. He knew how he felt when his mother, sister, and grandparents were killed by a drunk driver. There was nothing to be said, no way to prepare. You just have to move on. He could only try and help everyone do that. The boss of the Yankees had been in town and attended Bob's funeral as well. He had spent the better part of yesterday and today in the company of Red Dodge, the Meriden Monarch's manager. Everyone wondered what was up with that. What did he want? What plan was he cooking up this time? Red, said the boss, outside the fellowship hall, where the reception was being held. Let's go get back to the park in your office. I've got a couple of ideas I want to bounce off you. Okay, said Red. How could he refuse the boss? Red, he began, the big club in New York stinks. It's not all the manager's fault, but the team is just not responding to anything he's tried. We've decided to really shake them up, and here's the plan. George said the plan was to fire the manager and put him in charge of the Meriden Monarchs for the rest of the season. Make Red the new manager of the big club and bring up at least 3 or possibly 4 Monarchs and make them instant starters. The players that they replace would be given their immediate release and told to clean out their lockers within 2 hours. The big club would have 72 hours to make a deal for them or release them. There is no doubt that would get a rise out of the team. Just no telling if it would be positive or negative and get the team to pull together. Only time would tell. Red made it clear that he was quite happy with his Monarch assignment, but that he would do all he could and be a part of the plan. The fact that he would be bringing some of his players made it more palatable. Red and the boss talked about the immediate needs of the team and realizing the pitching was the most critical. Red helped made the decision to bring Billy Allen, Jack Myers, both pitchers, and his toughest choice would be between Reggie Bond and John Tavy. He made the choice on Tavy because this had to be his last year in the minors, and now was a good time to see if he could make a jump to the show. Plus, one of the players being cut was a first baseman. Red knew that Reggie was at least going to be in AAA next year, and maybe even make the jump to the majors next spring. John would not have that luxury, Red thought. The boss had been unusually patient. Now was the time. Red explained that later to Reggie, who said he understood and had no problem with Red's decision. Reggie wished Red the best and hoped they would be reunited in New York. Red promised to do all he could to get Reggie an invite to spring training, and he reminded Reggie a continuation of the great year he was having would help make that happen. Red told the boss that he would like to make the announcement after the game tonight. He also made him promise that he would restock the Monarch's pitching staff. It was not fair to the other players who had a chance to make the playoffs to take their two top pitchers in the middle of a pennant race, and the boss agreed. The affected players in red could easily make the trip to New York for tomorrow afternoon's Saturday game. George would call a press conference for 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, and the bomb would be dropped then.